Greetings, magical mages, spiritual sages, all the listeners out there. This is Age of the Mage, episode 17. And the thing I'd like to talk about today ties into our last episode 16 and dreams just a little bit. And it crosses over into everyday life. I want to talk a little about power and spirit animals. So I know you're all familiar with this concept. They are the concept of totems and spirit animals and power animals have been with us for so long. And many of us just for fun have looked them up and read about them and so on and so forth. So we're all familiar with them in a general sense. But what I'd like to do today is talk about some ways that you can utilize power animals and connections to spirit animals in perhaps a way you haven't thought of yet. And it does tie in sometimes to dreams. So let's just dive right in. I think that it's really interesting, and I do it myself, to research and see what others have come up with for meanings of certain animals and also dreams, things like this, because this can broaden our perspectives, of course, and give us angles and things we've never thought of before. However, I really believe that deep down inside each one of you are very individualized reasons for why things enter your life, things enter your dreams, why you have connections with certain animals or species. And sometimes those things just cannot be generalized. They can't be explained very well by someone else who isn't tied to those things in the same way that you are. I know that I have many, many dreams, and it runs in my family to have dreams, and I always have ever since I've been little. And I have so many that if I started to try to journal on my dreams, I would be writing all day and then sleeping at night. So I never even attempted it. What I'm doing now is a very kind of a minimalist dream journal where if I have a one that stands out for me, I go ahead and, while I'm awake, add some keywords in. I do a voice recording and I track that a little bit. But it can be tricky when you have many, many dreams to try to get all of them written down. Well, as we know from traditions like shamanism and other multidimensional travelers, very often animals and beasts and other unidentifiable creatures appear to us in our dreams or come with us in our dreams or are with us, go into our dreams with us. And these spirit animals that can go with us offer all kinds of benefits to us, don't they? Now, I know we can come up against something maybe negative if we are in lower astral realms or we're on a journey to do something very specific that may involve coming up against something negative for a reason. So I'm not saying everything is all rosy. When it comes to animals, they have their own primal instincts and very strong natures. But in general, we come to think of those that we feel special bonds with as actually being assistants, or guides to us, or helpers, aids, they can impart wisdom. And so when you have things like a vision quest in some traditions that leads to one of the animals coming and speaking to someone and sharing wisdom with that person. And this is very personal. We do have some general archetypes that I think all of us might relate to. And beyond those archetypes, I would encourage each one of you to run with your own imagination, do some deep dives, do some just introspection about why are you linked to that animal. And it may not even be that it is exactly matching up to someone else's general archetype that they would suggest that animal represents. It may be a very personal reason that only you will get the answer to through working with that animal, with that creature over time. So today, I'm going to suggest that based on that idea that you have your own answers inside of you regarding your connections to animals, I'm going to suggest that each of us just have some fun with this and invite a spirit or power animal, however you would like to refer to them. I know they're different. I know those terms kind of mean slightly different things. Just for this particular podcast, we're going to use them in a more generalized way. So again, maybe we're going to work on inviting one or two animals into our lives and actually invite them to join us in our dream state and see what happens. So what I've done is I made a list of some words, things that each of us might be searching for to have more of or refine in our life. I have strength, courage, agility or flexibility, protection, healing, abundance, wisdom, love, focus, and psychic or magic connections being improved, enhanced, and the list could go on. You can make your own list, but just for the sake of brainstorming, see what comes to your mind and don't worry about what others think when you hear certain words, when you hear what you might like to bring into your life. Just go by your feelings alone and see what comes to you. When we say strength, is there a certain animal that comes to your mind? And what does strength mean to you? And why does that animal come to your mind? Why do you think it comes to your mind? Is it brute strength? Is it physical strength? Or did an animal come to mind that really represents more of a tenacity, more of an enduring kind of strength? And this is the game you'll play with your imagination all the way through the list of words that you make up for yourself. And these are words, these are traits, these are things that you would like to see more of in your life, in your own life. So again, all of our lists are going to be different. They're going to be unique to us. Let's think about courage. Do we need more courage? Are we facing something in life that's hard, that we just crave, that we wish we were braver in certain circumstances? We'd like that in our lives. What animal? We have kind of a natural tie to the animal species, don't we? And we love them. And we try to protect them. And we honor them in so many ways. And we interact with them and they sustain us, sometimes in the hardest of ways. But we honor them for this. And we share this planet with the animals known to us. And of course, there are many, many creatures, I believe, that aren't even known, even on Earth, but other places that we're not aware of. But just working with the ones we're familiar with, going back to courage, let your imagination take you. What animal do you think portrays courage in the way that you would like to see it come into your life? Do you need courage to face a daily situation, or are you thinking of courage for a certain situation, right? And we just work through these words. What if you're too stubborn and people keep telling you that, and you even feel that about yourself, like, why can't I let go of this? Or why do I just keep beating my head against the wall? Why do I hang on to this, whatever the version of stubbornness may be? And you would like to bring flexibility into your life. You would like to bring agility in. What animal occurs to you that might bring this to your life if you could share time with that animal and stories with that animal and even essence? If there were ways to transmit the actual essence that the animal holds within itself, within its soul, within its archetype, and could transmit that to you magically or spiritually. What animal is flexible? What animal is protection? I went through a situation where I needed some protection. And I immediately saw this large, in my mind, I mean, I just barely just flashed. I didn't have to think very hard, very long. This large black panther cat just came instantly into my mind. This was many years ago. And I love animals, but I am not particularly, this was unusual for me to really want to draw or have a large cat around me. It was not something that is natural for me personally. And boy, she was a female, and she came in and she just stalked in a circle around me. She didn't frighten me, But I knew she had come to help me in a very specific circumstance I had asked for help with. And it did pan out. It did. I had to face someone that I was afraid, not that I was afraid of being harmed by the person. I was afraid of not holding my ground. I was afraid I would be intimidated and belittled. And I needed to be able to address this person on more equal footing. And I stood up strong that day. She went with me. And ever since then, she has reappeared at times that are similar to that time. And so somehow I have made an arrangement with her, even unbeknownst to my conscious part of my brain. I seem to have made an arrangement with her to for her to be willing to come in those situations. And when I'm going through a certain kind of vibrational situation, she seems to hear that call even before I call for her. She appears, and it gives me the clue that, aha, I'm facing a very similar situation again, and she will walk with me, and she will encircle me, and she will be with me for that. So another situation I had once, because it's kind of a variance on protection, and I immediately saw a bear, great, big, massive brown bear, and boy, I felt protected immediately. And this was more about physical protection, and that bear has reoccurred again in my life when I knew I was perhaps in a precarious situation in a physical sort of way. And that spirit of the bear came into my mind. So when we make a bond with a animal, a beloved creature, and they are willing to come to us for a certain reason and start working with us, it will amaze you, I think, how easily they will come back, how they will reappear in our lives and be willing to share our lives with us. How about healing? How about abundance? What about the little animals like an ant or a squirrel, or these that we think of will put away things for the rainy day, and they stock things up and they value the things they see, or more like, or even the crow who loves shiny things and collects things. There's different ways to be abundant, aren't there? And so as we just have some fun and look through lists of animals, if you find yourself drawn to a certain animal and the particular description of that animal doesn't match what you need, that's okay, because the spirit of that animal may be calling to you for in a very personal way, and may have ties to you that you don't even know about at the conscious level, and could turn into quite the partnership. So honor your own feelings and have some fun with this. Wisdom. We might think of owls when we hear the word wisdom, because it's kind of an archetype that we have heard over the years associated with owls. But aren't there so many animals that are wise? And, even inside species, for example, my love of dogs that I've mentioned, there are certain dogs, you'll just meet one that has such deep wisdom in their eyes and their soul. And that sharing time with that dog would bring the essence of wisdom, the energy, all the flavor of wisdom would be there in your presence, just sharing time with a particular animal in a broader species. So we don't want to discount that animals are individuals as well. And that's another reason to use your own intuition on this, because even if the whole species is not necessarily what you need, there may be an individual animal that has been connected with you in prior times, in prior dimensions, in other dimensions, and even now, multidimensionally, may be interacting with you that you are not even aware of, that is trying to make contact and strengthen your life or help you, or even it could be a win-win situation where there's a mutual beneficial interaction going on. And again, that's why it's just so individual, and keep trusting your own intuition. Love. How about love? What if you wanted to attract a partner, or you're looking for a soulmate that would really work well with you and maybe even share your life's purpose or something with you? You're ready for a meaningful relationship, something along these lines. A particular animal with that, if that's in your mind and you're holding that as an intention, there may be a particular animal that would come into your life that wants to help you with that. Perhaps they will teach you nurturing traits that you could be lacking that could make you a better partner and more ready for the person about to enter your life. Who knows? Perhaps it's an animal that just has natural healing abilities and can help you let go of past heartbreaks so that your heart opens once again to new possibilities. And again, this is why it is so unique to each one of you. How about things like focus, persistence, perseverance, diligence? These types of things. Different animals display this characteristic. Look at the beaver with his diligent building of the dams. And I saw a brilliant documentary on beavers years ago. I never knew I could be so entranced by beavers, but it was extraordinary. And so we can underestimate all the little animals running around in our world, or certain insects, the butterfly, or the little birds like a hummingbird. So again, this is up to you, and go where your intuition leads you. Now, so one way to approach a power animal is to feel that you could help yourself gain something in your life by becoming an ally of that animal. This can happen in dreams. This can also start bridging to your 3D life. This could even be in the 3D life where you have a horse that you're taking care of, or you have dogs, or you have cats, or birds, or reptiles, whatever the case may be, and you share quite the bond with a physical animal. But what this particular podcast is going to focus on is the idea that you can set an intention and put a call out into the universe for an animal to show up in your consciousness, in your dream state, in at least a meditative state that is there for the purpose of bonding with you through the spirit, through the essence of magic, through the mystery of dreams and the sleep states and the astral and other etheric planes. And if you hold this intention, this might be the same animal that comes to help you in your 3D world. However, it might turn out to be a spirit animal or an overlord of an animal species, that has plans for you, knows what you are about to embark on in your magical journeys in other realms. And this animal, yes, in some ways might be willing to help you offset or compensate for lack in your life in certain areas, but we need to honor the idea that perhaps this animal is even appearing to you to become an associate of yours as you travel in other planes and in other worlds. And so it's important to even ask the animal that does appear its purpose in your life. You may set an intention before you go to sleep. I would like to have more abundance in my life. And so the way I'd like to do that is have the ability to stock up and prepare. And I just like to ask an animal to come forth tonight or over the next few nights into my dreams, or even in the 3D plane where I will notice you. I'd like your spirit to enter my life so that I can connect with you and absorb your energy that's so good at attracting abundance. All right, so let's say you say something like that one evening. And to sleep you go, and the squirrel shows up, for an example. Now, it's easy to jump to the conclusion because you've intended the animal to come forward for the sake of abundance. And now this animal that in some ways could represent a form of abundance shows up. And yes, it's natural to say, "Oh, here you are, here you are, you're here for my abundance. You're a squirrel. How delightful!" Right now, but let's step back and just ask the squirrel a few more questions. Is that why you're here? Did you hear my call? Are you here to work together with me in my spirit and soul worlds and realms that will help me in my physical? Is that why you're here? Because who knows, maybe that squirrel is there for another reason, and they want to tell you about that other reason. Little squirrels are really good at chittering along, and they can be good warnings. They can send off early warnings for things. Maybe that squirrel is appearing to warn you about a future situation of yours, and you might miss the true purpose of the squirrel if we aren't open to when a creature does come into our consciousness through a dream. Let's just give it a chance to express itself and show itself to us. Yes, of course, it may very well be that the squirrel was coming as a result of your call and is here to share an essence of abundance with you and help you. But we don't want to overlook that there are other purposes for animal guides, animal spirits, and powered totem animals than just compensation for our lacks or fulfilling our desires. So let's go a little bit more that way now. Perhaps we all have things in our lives we want to improve, and we all have things we could call on animal spirits to help us with. That will just remain a part of our lives, most likely, the whole time we're here, because that's our reality. But what about this idea of our magical purpose, what our spirit does when we release from the bounds of the 3D world and go into sleep states and into dream states? And we have this magical spiritual calling to do things, both here on earth, but also perhaps in other realms. And so, a second very important and critical way that we can reach out, and there's our animal right now, has something to say. I do apologize, but we can reach out for that type of partnership as well, where the focus is not really on asking for a specific animal for a thing we want to work on in the 3D life, but instead asking for a companion that wants to work our magical path with us, is willing to travel with us in other realms, would be the best for us as a companion at this time, and let that animal reveal itself to you. Once again, I've had several. If someone just asks me, "What's your spirit animal?" I just have kind of a gut reaction, and I have my answer. But over time, many different animals have come as in spirit form, in shadow form, in etheric forms to me that are not actually my spiritual, my the one I'm conscious of as being my spirit animal or the totem I relate to. And so this shaman, particularly, and other multidimensional travelers are very familiar with this concept, because you can make more than one, you can have more than one type of animal working with you, obviously. You can make connections with different animals for different needs in the spiritual planes, in the etheric planes. And so we wouldn't want to limit what can happen here, but some people end up with a lifelong animal companion in those planes. And they may even meet other animals on their travels, and for different reasons have temporary kind of teams form around them for different purposes. And yet they may always walk with one guardian companion animal. Other people may never have that experience and may be more like me so far in my life that I'm aware of. I have had them come into my life, different animals at different times for different reasons. And I am not aware of one particular animal that journeys with me in astral planes or etheric planes and dimensions. So again, this will vary from for each one of us. We are so individual and our needs are so very different. And it ties into our destinies and it ties into our personal archetypes, which will be fun to talk about. That's coming up. But I think we could have some fun with this. And I personally can say that my experience with the spirit animals that have come into my life have been quite strong, quite powerful. I've actually realized they're there and then seen the evidence in some way manifest in the circumstance that they came to help with or they came to be with me for. So this is what I'd like to leave us with today. And I hope we all have some fun with it. And I'm going to be very interested to see if any of you make a connection with an animal that surprises you. Perhaps you are going to try it just for fun. Give it a try. And then lo and behold, something shows up. And I wouldn't rule out the kind of mythical animals. Um, a unicorn or a Pegasus, Sphinx. I mean, this is fine too. Anything that you can recognize, you might even have an animal come to you that you don't recognize, some kind of hybrid animal. And that animal may explain itself to you. It would be fascinating. So let your imagination receive the messages of the power animal and the spirit animal that would love to make itself known to you. And decide how do you want to approach this. Maybe both ways. Experiment with both things. Yes, you have some needs in the real world, and that would be great to call in some animals that would help you in that sphere. And yes, you also have an interest in your multidimensional tasks and journeys and travels. And hey, wouldn't it be interesting to see what animal would like to start journeying with you? And many of you may already have one. I'm completely aware of that, or even more than one that you value and cherish so very much. So I leave you with this message today, and we will see what comes of it. Magic and spirit and soul. Those are my wishes for each one of us today. Be back shortly with you. Bye for now.